What happens when professional tennis collides with suspicion, secrecy, and the invisible hand of regulation? For 3 athletes, a young Russian and 2 Serbian players. The answer came in a sudden, cold, and career-altering announcement from the International Tennis Integrity Agency, ITIA. Overnight, they went from competing on courts across Europe and Asia to being barred from tournaments. Their names now entwined in one of the sport's most serious scandals of the year. It was a regular Thursday morning in late February 2026 when the ITIA issued its statement. 3 players had been provisionally suspended under the Tennis Anti-Corruption Program, TACP. The names hit headlines instantly. Mark Kaufman, a 20-year-old Russian doubles specialist once ranked within striking distance of the top 200. Draginja Vukovic, a 25-year-old Serbian with a reputation for sharp baseline play. And Mila Masic, also Serbian, age 28, whose career had peaked just shy of the top 900. None of them had yet been found guilty of match fixing or corruption. But provisional suspension is not a light word in tennis. It's a public signal that the governing body believes there is credible reason to restrict professional activity while investigations continue. For Mark Kaufman, it was almost surreal. Months of training, travel across continents, and carefully calculated tournament schedules evaporated overnight. His profile shot up on social media, but not in the way a rising star hopes for. Instead of highlights of serves, volleys, and victories, his name appeared alongside phrases like suspension, anti-corruption, and investigation. The sudden scrutiny didn't just affect him professionally. It permeated the lives of friends, family, and fellow athletes who now wondered what invisible forces might be at play behind the scenes of their sport. Meanwhile, the Serbian duo, Vukovic and Masic, faced similar seismic shocks. Both had spent years cultivating reputations on the ITF circuit, navigating minor tournaments, qualifying rounds, and the grueling world of professional tennis travel. Their provisional suspension meant immediate exclusion from tournaments sanctioned by the ATP, WTA, ITF, and national federations. Every coach, every training partner, every tournament official suddenly became a silent witness to a drama that had yet to be fully revealed. The language of the announcement itself added to the tension. Kaufman's suspension fell under TACP Section F.3 WI.1, which in essence is tied to failure to comply with the ITIA's investigative demands. Vukovic and Masic were flagged under TACP Section F.3 WI.4, suggesting a different category of concern, one that hinted at potential major offenses, without yet providing proof. The provisional nature of the suspension is critical. It signals caution, not conviction. Yet, in the court of public opinion, the line between suspicion and guilt is often dangerously blurred. Across social media, forums, and tennis news outlets, speculation spread like wildfire. Some commentators painted Kaufman as naive, unprepared for the rigorous oversight that modern professional tennis demands. Others warned of the more sinister possibility: deliberate attempts to manipulate results, whispers of hidden agreements, or the subtle but powerful influence of third-party betting networks. For Vukovic and Masic, the dialogue was similar, conjecture fueled by the scarcity of information and the intense pressure surrounding professional competition. And yet, amidst the chaos, one question dominated the minds of fans, journalists, and fellow athletes alike: what actually happened? The ITIA had acted decisively, but they had not revealed evidence, methodology, or even a hint of timing beyond the dates of suspension and appeal. This vacuum created a perfect storm of tension, the kind that professional sports thrive on when stakes are high, reputations are fragile, and the next serve might change everything. In that moment, the story wasn't about scores, rankings, or Grand Slam appearances. It was about trust, integrity, and the hidden mechanisms that maintain the sport's credibility. The conflict had begun, not on the court, not in the locker room, but in the shadows of a system designed to protect fairness. And for Kaufman, Vukovic, and Masic, the clock had already started ticking. Every tweet, every headline, every rumor would shape the narrative long before the first investigation report saw the light of day. In professional tennis, freedom on the court comes with invisible chains. Every serve, every match, and every tournament is monitored, not only for athletic performance, but for integrity, transparency, and compliance. For Kaufman, Vukovic, and Masic, those chains tightened overnight. The ITIA's provisional suspensions didn't just stop them from competing. They restricted their movement, professional communication, and every sanctioned tennis-related interaction. The sport's governing body now held a map of their potential influence, and it was not a map the players controlled. The Tennis Anti-Corruption Program, TACP, is more than a set of rules. It's a framework designed to restrict opportunities for misconduct before it can affect outcomes. It defines a web of prohibited actions, from direct manipulation of match results to failure to cooperate with investigations. Kaufman's flag under TACP Section F.3 (I.1) is specific: failure to comply with ITIA demands. Essentially, the suspension implies that the agency requested cooperation, documentation, or explanation, and the response, or lack thereof, triggered immediate action. It's a legal tightrope. One misstep, one delayed response, and access to the professional circuit is curtailed. For Vukovic and Masic, the restriction is slightly different, but equally consequential. Their suspensions fall under TACP Section F.3 (I.4), a category implying serious concern, possibly related to behavior or communication that could compromise match integrity. While the ITIA has not disclosed evidence, the structure of the rule narrows the field of what the players could do and the time frame in which it could have occurred. The rules themselves are like a lens, filtering all possible actions down to a finite number: what the players said, what they omitted, what documents were accessible, and what interactions they had with coaches, officials, or other players. This narrowing of options creates the first level of tension. The public only sees suspension, but internally, investigators are piecing together interactions, timelines, and digital footprints. Every tournament entry, travelogue, social media post, and communication record becomes a data point. In the realm of professional sports, restriction doesn't just limit participation, it maps potential culpability, and the players suddenly exist inside a pressure cooker, visible to scrutiny on every axis. Meanwhile, fans and media cannot help but speculate. How much did the players know? Were there intermediaries, coaches, family members, agents, whose actions affected outcomes? The TACP rules effectively confine these questions to a framework. Investigators must determine whether prohibited actions occurred within the restricted field, and if so, whether intent or negligence played a role. The narrowing of potential actions, from the universe of a player's daily routines down to a handful of interactions, creates a psychological tension that is invisible but palpable. It is a silent, unseen opponent, perhaps more formidable than any tennis rival. The world of professional tennis rarely glimpses what happens behind closed doors, until an investigation like this pulls back the curtain. For Mark Kaufman, Draginja Vukovic, and Mila Masic, the ITIA scrutiny was not abstract. It was a meticulous, multi-layered process designed to uncover any action, omission, or communication that could compromise the integrity of matches. The moment the provisional suspensions were announced, the clock on a methodical, invisible investigation began ticking. Investigators start by mapping the scope of possible infractions, guided by the TACP rules under which each player was flagged. Kaufman's alleged failure to comply with a demand might sound minor to the public, but in practice, it triggers a cascade of inquiries. Reviewing correspondence, documenting tournament participation, analyzing financial transactions, and tracking travel movements. Vukovic and Masic face a slightly different, but equally intense lens, one that emphasizes behavior, communication, and potential interaction with betting or outside influences. Each action, each message, each digital footprint becomes a clue in a puzzle with enormous consequences. The ITIA leverages both traditional investigative methods and specialized sports monitoring techniques. For instance, emails, text messages, and app communications are reviewed for context. Social media posts and interactions are cross-referenced to identify any patterns or anomalies. Tournament entry logs, practice schedules, and coach notes are examined for unusual requests or last-minute changes. Even seemingly trivial elements, a delayed confirmation, a missed report, or a cryptic social post, can become a data point in the broader narrative. In professional tennis, every detail counts. Time is another weapon in the ITIA's arsenal. Investigators reconstruct events chronologically, pinpointing windows when influence could have occurred. For Kaufman, this might mean tracking a 24-hour span during a doubles tournament. For Vukovic and Masic, sequences across multiple ITF events are scrutinized. Layering these timelines against observed behavior, communication logs, and tournament outcomes creates a restricted probability map, a narrowing of what could have happened, when and how. Investigators cannot reveal evidence prematurely, leaving the public, media, and even the players themselves suspended in uncertainty. This psychological pressure amplifies engagement, not just on social media, but in the narratives constructed by fans and analysts. Suspense is built at multiple levels: procedural, legal, and emotional. Every missed detail, every delayed response, every rumor can escalate the perception of guilt or innocence in the minds of millions. Crucially, the ITIA's investigations are about patterns, probabilities, and accountability, not immediate punishment. A provisional suspension is a containment strategy. It limits potential influence while evidence is collected, protects tournament integrity, and prevents further complications. It is both shield and sword, protective for the sport but restricting for the athletes. Players are effectively in a waiting room of uncertainty, observed, documented, and monitored at every turn. Finally, the investigation is designed to separate coincidence from intent. The ITIA examines each potential infraction against known procedures and past behavior. Analysts consider whether anomalies in communication, scheduling, or tournament outcomes are benign or deliberate. This careful disentangling of evidence ensures that any eventual action, from extended suspension to exoneration, is backed by measurable, verifiable proof, maintaining credibility in a sport that thrives on fairness, trust, and precision. The investigation isn't just about finding wrongdoing. It's about narrative control and fact-based suspense. And for Kaufman, Vukovic, and Masic, every email, every entry, every interaction is now a piece of a story that the tennis world is watching, waiting, and debating, silent observers to a drama unfolding off the court. Tennis is often described as a mental sport, where split-second decisions define victory and defeat. But outside the court, there's a parallel game, one where incentives, opportunities, and perception can alter careers in ways the public rarely sees. For Mark Kaufman, Draginja Vukovic, and Mila Masic, the ITIA's provisional suspensions didn't just freeze them in competition. They ignited a media storm that reframed their careers in a single sentence: under investigation. The first layer of motive is subtle yet potent. In professional tennis, stakes are not only about trophies, they are about ranking points, prize money, sponsorships, and long-term career trajectory. A single unexpected loss, unusual behavior, or unexplained decision during a tournament can raise red flags. The TACP rules exist precisely because opportunity plus incentive can create vulnerabilities. Even a minor deviation from compliance can be misinterpreted as deliberate, especially when combined with pressure to perform, the lure of quick gains, or external influence. For young athletes like Kaufman, navigating this high-stakes ecosystem is daunting. The slightest misstep, intentional or not, can have outsized consequences. Vukovic and Masic, seasoned but not top-tier players, face a different psychological environment. Their careers involve constant movement, qualifying rounds, minor ITF tournaments, and travel across countries with varying oversight standards. Every interaction with coaches, peers, or officials can be scrutinized. Even a seemingly benign exchange might trigger suspicion if it intersects with broader investigation patterns. The ITIA, like a spotlight in the dark, narrows focus to the smallest but most meaningful actions. Media mechanics amplify this tension exponentially. Once the suspensions were announced, news outlets and social platforms ignited a wildfire of speculation. Headlines emphasized uncertainty: suspended under anti-corruption program, provisional ban, investigation pending. Social media served as a de facto tribunal. Snippets of information, filtered through the lens of outrage or intrigue, shaped public opinion before any evidence could be examined. For athletes, media perception often rivals official consequences in impact. Sponsors, endorsements, and reputational equity shift in real time. Fans played a critical role in this emergent narrative. Online discussions dissected past matches, examined player behavior, and theorized motives. Did Kaufman ignore ITIA correspondence deliberately? Were Vukovic and Masic involved in a more serious violation? The player's motives, real or perceived, are secondary to the perception of motive. For ITIA investigators, intent must be proven. For media, intent is assumed or guessed. For Mark Kaufman, Draginja Vukovic, and Mila Masic, the provisional suspensions are more than a pause in competition. They are a defining moment in their professional and personal lives. The ITIA's ruling does not declare guilt, but the public and professional impact is immediate, unmistakable, and enduring. Every tournament, every ranking point, and every sponsorship opportunity is now suspended in limbo. For Kaufman, the suspension under TACP section F.3, WI.1 is a stark reminder that compliance is as crucial as talent. Missing key doubles tournaments not only affects rankings, but also shapes perception among peers and potential partners. In a sport where networking is integral, from coaches to agents to sponsors, absence becomes conspicuous. Every match he could have played is now a ghost of opportunity, and every social media post is scrutinized for implication. Even his previous victories are reframed under a cloud of suspicion, leaving him in a constant state of professional tension. Vukovic and Masic face similar, if not heightened, stakes. Their suspensions under TACP section F.3, WI.4 signal more serious concern in the eyes of the ITIA, and with it comes amplified public and media attention. Their careers, carefully built over years of international travel, incremental ranking improvements, and relentless training, are effectively frozen. For professional athletes, time is a currency. Months of suspension can translate into lost momentum, missed exposure, and a reputational gap that rivals any defeat on court. The uncertainty extends beyond performance. It affects endorsements, invitations to higher-tier events, and the intangible credibility that defines a professional's trajectory. Beyond the individual, the tennis world feels the reverberations. Organizers, federations, and fellow players watch these cases closely, recognizing that integrity is a fragile asset. The ITIA's proactive stance sends a signal to every competitor. Compliance is non-negotiable, and the sport's governing bodies are vigilant. The provisional nature of the suspensions also highlights due process. Investigations continue, appeals can be filed, and final determinations may shift outcomes. For the audience, this creates suspense, keeping fans and media engaged as the story unfolds in real time. Public reaction mirrors the tension on court. Social media remains a battleground of speculation and judgment. Fans analyze past matches, interview snippets, and tournament behavior to draw conclusions. Analysts dissect the rules, comparing past disciplinary actions to these new cases. Every new detail, a dismissed appeal, a leaked statement, or an ITIA procedural update, ignites fresh debate. The ITIA's ongoing review may exonerate, penalize, or extend restrictions. Players may return to the court, but with reputational shadows, altered public perception, and heightened scrutiny. Meanwhile, viewers and analysts are left anticipating the next chapter. How the sport responds, whether patterns of misconduct emerge, and which rising or established players could be implicated next. Kaufman, Vukovic, and Masic remain symbols of a sport that balances talent, opportunity, and ethical scrutiny, reminding fans that the thrill of competition extends beyond the court. And as we watch, we are not merely spectators. We are participants in a story of suspense, consequence, and revelation, awaiting the next serve, the next investigation, and the next shocking twist.